Hello, church. I hope this finds you doing well. And listen, I just want to take a moment to tell you that I'm fighting a little bit of a cold, but we're going to plow through because if you know anything about me, you know that I plow through. Second of all, I just want to shout out to all the men who went to support our humble strength retreat. Last week, it was just awesome to see the men interact with these boys and just to pour into them some wisdom and guidance. And so Jason, our youth pastor, is doing such a great job. So I just wanted to celebrate that for a moment. So here we are, the second Monday of the new year, and we're at the end, coming to the end of our Courageous Faith series, and we'll start Colossians in a few weeks. So we find ourselves in a text that I love. So we're in the part of the Bible in the book of Exodus. Moses has encountered God in the burning bush, which in of itself is an amazing story, that a bush burns but does not get consumed, and that a voice comes out of a bush. I mean, there's lots of cool things happening within that story. But we pick it up at the end of that story during this ongoing conversation. And it says this in verse 7, chapter 3. The Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt, have heard them crying out because of the slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of the land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. So just pause right there. If you ever doubted whether Israel was God's chosen people, notice that Israel still exists and none of the ites still exist. All that group of people, they're gone. So in verse 9, it says this, and now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now, go, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. Here's what strikes me about this story, is that Moses is encountering God, and Moses has been in Egypt. He knows the heavy hand and rod of Pharaoh and the oppression that the people are living through. He left that, right? So here's the part that's funny to me. I think as God is talking to him, Moses has got to be thinking in his mind, well, it's about time. I'm glad somebody's about to do something about this. God, I'm glad you're finally hear the cries of your people. And then God says those famous words, I am sending you to Pharaoh. Like Moses did not expect that to happen. I mean, Moses is essentially retired. He's out to pasture, literally. He is caring for his father-in-law's flocks and animals. He's out to pasture. It's the time has passed him. His ship has sailed, whatever you look like. It'd be like going to a nursing home to recruit the next five-star general and commander to lead your armies into war. This is what it feels like for Moses when God says to him, I'm sending you. I'm bringing you out of retirement, so to speak, so that you can go and be my mouthpiece and, confront Pharaoh with all these things. Well, here's what strikes me funny. It's crazy to me that I think part of what I'm discovering, let me just try to get to it. Part of what I'm discovering is that now that I'm over 60 years old, between 60 and heaven, I feel like is prime opportunity for me to have the greatest amount of kingdom potential I could ever have. Did that sink in? Between 60 and heaven, I feel like that I've got the greatest kingdom potential that I've ever had. I don't have the distraction anymore of having to parent children, and I'm in their lives, obviously, but God has now given me a window of time to focus on other people's children and focus on orphans and to focus on our church, actually making disciples that lead people to become disciples. So I think that there's this incredible potential, but we live in a culture right now where, this retirement thing is bled into the church. So here's what I know. A lot of our friends are in that season in their life, our close friends, and are talking about retirement, and I'm happy for them. And I think that's good for them. And I want to celebrate their retirement from 40, 50 years of hard work. They're ready to kind of set it down. And I'm sure God has something else for them. I just know in my life, when I read this book, there is no retirement in this book. You don't retire from kingdom work. You just move on to the next thing. Church, we've been really transparent that one day Ryan will take the helm of this ship we call Georgianna and will lead God's people from the middle of South Merritt Island into the ends of the earth. And that will be his job and his task. And here's what I know. When that day comes, I'm not going to quit doing kingdom work. For crying out loud, Dee Dee says that I'm a miserable human being when I'm not at work. She'll probably send applications in for me to find a job somewhere. It's just how I am wired, right? So I'm not going to stop doing kingdom work. So I think we have to get in our head that retirement is something that we do culturally so that God can open the next door to what he needs us to do. Maybe it's serve our church. Maybe it's serve another ministry in town. Whatever that looks like, retirement does not exist. And it does not exist in a world where you're driven by faith. God's going to use you right up until the finish line. So if you're in that season where retirement culturally is in your future, live with anticipation of the door that God's going to open next. This is how he will be glorified. There's just no retirement in the Bible. It doesn't exist. So I hope that's a blessing to you, right? As we're in the season of making new decisions and new kind of resolutions and those kind of things, that we would begin to understand what it looks like to live fully into finishing well in the kingdom. Church, I love you so much. Thank you for being tolerant of my voice today. And I look forward to being back with you again soon. Have a great week.